solution. So we do have a code of conduct. We want everyone to feel safe. We are a very supportive and vibrant community, but we don't discriminate on any of the age, gender, invisible, visible disability. So it's for everyone. We want to make sure this is a safe environment where you can share your thoughts, feel free to engage with the community. So our full code of conduct is available on our website. And if you have any questions, write to us at london@womencodingcommunity.com. So what are the projects that we run? I'm just going to run through very quickly because we have a very exciting evening planned. But to give you a brief idea of what our mentorship program is, one of the most popular programs. We have already closed the long-term mentorship. We have the ad hoc mentorship program open right now. Like the September one will start from 1st of September. We have book club, which is again a very popular program. We have writing club, speaking club, career club, coding club, lots of clubs. And you can join our Slack channel to be part of these clubs. So as I was talking about the end-to-end solution from when you want to apply for a job to when you have actually got an interview, we offer mock interviews, lead code study groups, and we have, I think, around 100, 200 people attending the lead code sessions. So similarly, our system design track is very popular, machine learning track is popular. So these are some of the projects that we do run. And this whole thing is only possible because of our volunteers. We couldn't do anything without them. So we have a brilliant and amazing set of volunteers. Even today, I think a lot of them have joined and will be helping us. So if you're interested, please do join our volunteering community. There are lots of perks associated with volunteering besides the feel-good factor. And why join us? So these are some of the benefits. We are a very friendly crowd. These photos were taken on our first anniversary, which we just met in person, and it was just an amazing event. You can see that from all the smiles that are there. So what are the perks of joining? Basically, you can actually feel good about volunteering. You get help. You have an amazing set of people that you can network with. And we do have some nice perks like, you can have some free tickets to the events and conferences. So yeah, thank you for listening today and joining us on this amazing evening. I will stop sharing my screen. And before I hand it over to Joanna for the tech talk, can we just take a picture? Yeah, so who wants to come off camera? And anybody? Okay, let me just take a screenshot. Can someone else also take a backup screenshot, please? Oh no, mine has not come out well, but smile. Thank you. All right, so let's get started on this evening. Record. I think we need to press on the record button as well.
It's ongoing, don't worry.
Okay, it's recording, fine. All right, so on Joanna, it's all to you.
Perfect. Yeah, I'll take over from here. Let me just share my screen real quick. Nice. Okay, can you guys all see my screen? Yes, yeah. Perfect. Amazing. So my name is Joanna, for the people that don't know me. I am one of the co-founders at Tech Talk, which is a community that helps people get into the tech industry. So not necessarily just tech jobs, so anything from like marketing, sales, revenue operations, more commercial roles, and also more technical roles within the tech industry. So I came here today to talk about CVs. I know there's a lot of like misconceptions on like building CVs, and the CV is really like the foundation to your application. So just going to spend the next couple of minutes talking through a couple of the CV templates, what is a bad CV versus what's a good CV, so you guys can have that as a reference point moving forward as well. So just background before I dive into that. So As I said, my name is Joanna. I am originally from Brazil. I moved to the UK about 8 years ago, and kind of my career in here. So came here as an immigrant, went through the student visa, work visa. I don't know if some of you guys are in that same journey as well. But basically, after a couple of years growing my career in marketing, which is where I ended up, but my career was really everywhere. I did a little bit of everything. And I built my career in marketing. And then recently, I was heading a marketing team in a fintech company here in the UK, but recently quit my job to do Tech Talk full time. So just so you guys know a little bit of my background. And Tech Talk, just so you can know a little bit more about Tech Talk as well. So as I was saying, like we are a community where we help people break into the tech industry. We have been operating for the past like year and a half, helping more than 260,000 job seekers within our reach. We have more than 2,000 community members as well, and basically helping people get into tech companies from startups all the way to big tech. So when we're thinking about CVs as well, like the way that you want to build your CV, doesn't matter if you're applying for a startup, for scale up, or a big tech, is going to have the same structure. So that's what we're going to dive into right now. Okay, so to do this, I'm going to open straight here, so this can be a little bit more interactive. So first, I just wanted to talk a little bit through a bad CV and what a bad CV looks like. I can see like a lot of you, I think you can probably chat on the chat here, but I would love if you guys could tell me, what do you think is bad about the CV overall? I'm just gonna scroll down a little bit more. I don't know if you guys can have access to the chat, but if you can pop it in there. Too much text, lengthy, dense paragraphs, too wordy, summary is too big. It's a novel, okay. Phone number, more than one page, inconsistent format. Okay, yeah, so you guys got most of it, education at the top. So more or less, like this is not a good example of a good CV because of a couple of reasons. A lot of the ones that you guys have been pointing out already, but yes, the summary is like a novel. There's way too much in here. And when we think about CVs, like you all have heard this because I know it's like something that everyone says, but it's also true. Recruiters spend about six seconds looking at your CV. Basically what that means is that recruiters have trained their eyes when they're looking through CVs, because they look through so many CVs every day, to basically look for the relevant information for them. And if they don't find that information easily, they pass. So that's why we say like, you need to be able to tell a really good story in your CV in the first 5 seconds of looking at it, because otherwise like you risk the chance of the recruiter not diving deeper and not really understanding about what is it that you do, what are your strengths and all of that. So putting a summary that is this long, they're definitely not going to read any of it. Then we go into the bullet points, very, very long. Again, no one's going to read this. Like I can't really, by looking at it, see what is it that really like is your strong skill from this. And then we have also these bullet points, which are very, very short and not really saying much. Like there are many listing responsibilities. Some of you also said 2 pages. So this is also a misconception that a lot of people have that I want to say at the beginning. It's okay for your CV to be 2 pages. A lot of people think that the CV needs to be less than 2 pages. That is not true. The truth is that it shouldn't be more than 2 pages. It doesn't matter your level of experience. I know that there are some people here that are earlier in their career, that are more senior in their career. It doesn't matter if you're like a VP or head of, your CV should not be more than 2 pages, because what happens is like, as you go throughout your career, some things are going to become less relevant and you don't need to put your whole biography in your CV. It's about positioning the things that matter in the places that matter. And that's why someone also said like education at the top. This is really, really dependent, because the way that you want to be structuring your CV is based on where you are in your career. If you are like a recent graduate or you don't have a lot of experience, you really recently graduated, you want to put your education first. If you already have more experience, you want to be putting your education after your professional experience. So again, like these are all things that shift in your CV depending on where you are in your career. So I wouldn't say that like just because the education is at the top, that's a red flag. And the only other thing that I would say as well is that what is really, really important about your CV is that when you put the eye on it, you know straight away what is the job that that person is applying for, because this needs to be crystal clear. You need to be able to put the eye in your CV and be like, okay, like you are really strong for this role. So in this case, like I have no idea what is the role that this person is applying for. Like if I read in more detail, I can like see like here business development, here's business development. So I can already like say, okay, this person is going more towards sales. But again, these needs to be much more clear for the recruiter to be looking at. So let's go into building a good CV and what that looks like. Basically, the first thing that I wanted to talk about before like diving into a good CV and going through every single one of the sections, I wanted to talk about the structuring. As I was saying, like the formatting of the CV depends on where you are in your career. So I'm gonna go through like three potential phases in your career that you could be at. So the first one is a recent graduate. If you're a recent graduate, some of the things that you want to be highlighting first in your CV are going to be, and let me put this at the top actually, are going to be your education. Like if you don't have a lot of experience already, because these are the strong points that you have like backing whatever job you're applying for. So let's say you're applying for data analyst, you just graduated in data analysis or another degree. This is what you have that is closest to the job that you want to get into. So like putting your education first makes sense. And one thing that you do want to highlight is your projects. So projects is one thing that can be emphasized in a early career resume. So then I'll put like education, then you have your projects. Then if you do have professional experience, you can dive into your professional experience as well. It's a similar thing like if you're like switching careers, let's say, and you recently graduated into a different degree that is more close to the position that you're going into. So let's say like you had your career, I don't know, like in sales, and then you're going to data analysis and you just graduated in data like data analysis master's or bachelor's, whatever it is. You also want to put that first because again, this is the closest thing to the job that you're going after. So what I always say, the top first page of your resume is the most important one because this is where the recruiter spends most of their time. So you need to make sure that all of the things that are relevant to them are going to be in this top first half. So then you have like professional experiences and then you have courses as well. Another thing that you can add to is a skills section. And I can add this here, where basically you can just put like the skills if you have like technical skills, for example. So let's say like Python, R, whatever it is, you can just list them in here. And I'm just gonna type it really quick in this format. So you can basically put like all of the skills that you have up here as well. So they're more prominent instead of putting them at the bottom. Skills, it doesn't matter where you are in your experience, like especially for technical roles, you always want to put that at the top of the resume. Then we have people with less than 5 years of experience. So you have like between 1 and 5 years of experience. This is the layout that I would use. A couple of things that change from here is that because you already have experience, that takes precedent over your education. So your education can go to the bottom. It doesn't need to stay at the top. So here you can see areas of expertise is the same as skills, by the way. So you have like your summary, you have your areas of expertise, your skills. Then you're going to have your professional experience, then your education, and then additional skills. You can put courses here as well. If you have any courses, just like this one at the bottom. And then for people that have more than 5 years of experience, the only thing that really changes here is that I added this new section that I really like called key achievements. For people that have more experience and you have like, let's say like 3-4 experiences that you have added in your CV, what we want to make sure that we do is that we highlight the most important skills for that job that you're applying for in your CV. And I didn't say that at the beginning, but you need to personalize your CV for every job that you're applying for. And that's not something that should take 1 hour. That's something that should take 10 minutes, especially if you're using an AI tool. Because you don't need to change your whole CV for every job you're applying for. You just need to change the stop section in here, because this is, again, the section that the recruiter spends most time on. And what is really good about the key achievements is that you can change that very easily depending on the job that you're applying for. So let's say like you're applying for a job where one of the main things that you're going to be doing is, I don't know, like analyzing like data sets or like building dashboards or whatever that is. You want to make sure that you're emphasizing this right at the top, because these are the things that the recruiters are going to be looking for. So instead of like them having to go and read through your bullet points, it's going to be on their face, right at the top of your CV. So key achievements is a section that I always recommend for people that already have a little bit more of experience, just because you can emphasize the relevant skills at the top instead of just like leaving them throughout your bullet points, because then it's easier for the recruiter to just see it. So that's the main difference between more than 5 years and less than 5 years. So these are like the 3 templates and like how you can reshuffle that information depending on where you are. But again, all of the sections are going to be built exactly the same. It's just where you place those sections within your CV. So now I just want to go through a good CV example and basically dissect that a little bit more step by step. So the first thing that I want to emphasize here on this good CV is that this is also something that I always recommend people putting, and this is something that you can also personalize depending on the job that you are applying for, which is adding a headline under your name. This is really important because, one, when you upload your CV goes to an ATS system. An ATS system, nothing more, is like a centralized space for storing all of the CVs that come through different job boards. And then basically like recruiters can access that and go through the CVs. But the thing is that ATS systems are becoming much more intelligent now, and companies are being able to leverage that much more. Meaning that companies can set triggers on what they want to eliminate that candidate on. So let's say like location is a really big one. So if companies are hiring for roles in London and they see on your CV that the location is not London, they can basically put that in the system, and the system automatically rejects anyone that is not based in London. Same thing as if like they're looking for someone that knows Python. If the word Python is not on your CV, the system can automatically reject you as well. So that's why it's really important for you to personalize your CV per job, because you need to pass the first scanning, which is when you upload your CV, the system cannot automatically reject you. And you can see that if you're like, when you upload it, in the first couple of minutes, you receive a rejection straight away. This means that your CV is not passing the first barrier. Then after that, your CV, if someone manages to see it from like the pile of applications that come through, if they manage to see your CV there, the recruiter is going to assess if you're a good fit or not. If you receive a rejection after a couple of days, usually means that the recruiter or someone looked at your CV and they rejected it for some reason. Usually the main reason why that happens is because of positioning. So basically they look at your CV, there's something that is not entirely correlated or relevant to the job that you're applying for, and then they decide that they want to reject you. So in this case, it's really important to see, okay, like, are you fitting 75 to 80% of what they're looking for in the job description? Because if you're not, very likely they're going to reject you, because we are in an employer's market. So companies do have the choice on who they want to be picking. So unfortunately, we need to be even smarter about what are the jobs that we're applying for, and like, do we have the skills that it takes? And are we putting those skills in front of the recruiter? So one example that I have as well from a person that I was coaching is that they were applying for a payments company, and then they had experience in working in a payments company, like in another country. But basically, they didn't put the word payments anywhere on their CV. They basically just put like the company name, that the company that they were working for. And it was like the assumption that once a recruiter puts an eye there, they would see that they work in payments. And then I actually knew like the recruitment team for that company, and then that person applied for the job, and then they got automatically rejected. And then I went back and I saw, yeah, you literally did not put the word payments in your CV. So like, they were explicitly saying in the job description they wanted someone with experience in payments, and the recruiter is not going to go do digging to try to see if you do have payments experience. So that's what I'm saying. Like, it needs to be very explicit, so like they can look at it and they can see that you are a good fit for that job. So putting a headline is very important for that aspect as well, because the recruiter puts an eye on your CV. They already know what your expertises are, and those are keywords as well that help optimize your profile for search. So if you are applying like also in a specific industry where you do have experience in, let's say like fintech, you can come here and you can put fintech, because again, like, if they are putting that on the job description and you do have the experience, you want to highlight that right at the top. So here I would just put like the most important things that you see from the job description that you want to be highlighting, and always putting the role as well in here. So like if you are a graduate, putting data analyst graduate, or if you're like not a data analysis, yeah, like you're completely switching careers and you haven't done any courses or at all on software engineer or data analysis, you can just put something like aspiring data analysis, because you're going to be applying for very, very junior roles anyways. But it's important for you to include those keywords regardless. Then we're going to have your personal information. Here, again, super simple. The place, like I see a lot of people putting postcodes, like just put the city, the country you're in, phone number, your email, and your LinkedIn. Like never forget to put your LinkedIn, because in this market, 95% of recruiters are proactively using LinkedIn. So they want to search for your LinkedIn profile when they see your CV, because they're trying to find more information about you. So a lot of the times they're want to see your LinkedIn. So if you don't put it on your CV, they're going to try to look for it manually. And again, it's creating more friction for that recruiter to actually learn more about you. So you want to make that as easy as possible. And if you have a portfolio as well, you can also add that up here. Then we go into the summary. Summary needs to be very, very short. Shouldn't be more than 3 lines. I usually limit it to 3 lines. And the summary is also a place where you want to be strategically putting keywords and skills. So you can see here in this summary, like you do have data analysis, which is, again, like this is the role you're applying for. So this is a must. Then you start going and looking at the skills that we're highlighting. So like delivering business insights, that's potentially something that was in the job description. Product analytics, also something in the job descriptions. Growth strategies could also be something in the job description. Then we go into technical skills, SQL, Python, BI tools. So again, those are all things that you're fetching from the job description. So these are all replaceable. All of these that I'm highlighting here, like you can keep more or less the same structure, but you want to be replacing those keywords with the keywords that you have in the job description to better align to that role that you're applying for. So just something to keep an eye out for, but like 2 sentences, 3 sentences max. And again, focusing on skills, both hard skills and soft skills. If you're career switching as well, like this is a place where you can put a little bit of the narrative. Like for example, if you're coming from a completely different background, why is it that you're like doing that switch? So like you can also help the recruiter read your CV in a way that makes sense on why you're applying for this role that you're applying for. Then we go into skills. Skills you can either put in this format here, or you can put into this format here as well. Completely up to you. Usually I like to put in this one just because it's easier to edit. But when we're thinking about skills, the biggest mistake that I see here is people adding things like communication, problem solving, leadership, those common words that you see on every single job description. When a company puts that they're looking for someone that is good in communication, you saying that you are good in communication doesn't really mean anything. And I just put it in here so I can highlight it. So I'll put it here. So when the job description, they say communication, doesn't mean anything for you to put like, okay, I'm good at communication. Like, what does that really mean? So these are type of skills that you show more on your bullet points, or like, okay, I'm a good communicator. On your bullet points, you can show like stakeholder management, how you worked with other teams, and like showing things that show that you're a good communicator without just putting there like communication. So when you're thinking about skills, you need to think about niche skills related to the role that you're going for. So like either data analysis, software engineering, and you need to make sure that you are highlighting those. And it's always split within 2, soft skills and hard skills. It needs to be more or less like a 50-50. So soft skills is anything that, again, like is not a tool. So like business and product analytics, data visualization, A/B testing, like those are all soft skills. And then when we think about hard skills, those are more tools. So like SQL, Python, R, Power BI, Tableau, those are all tools that you have in your tech stack. And again, this is all aligned to the job description. But always make a blend between soft skills and hard skills and make it as specific as possible to what they're looking for in the job description that aligns to the role that you're applying for. So if it's something like very, very generic, like communication, don't put it in. Because again, like everyone puts that in and it doesn't really mean anything. Nice. Then we go into key achievements. So key achievements is, as I was saying, like for people that already have a little bit more of experience, is a section that I really, really like because you can basically emphasize skills that are throughout your CV, like in your bullet points, but making it super clear for the recruiter that you have those skills. So you can see that like all of this first top section here is very tailored to that job that I'm applying for. So here I picked 3 skills that were like in the job description. Let's say like I picked a random job description. So those are the 3 things that they were looking for. So optimizing product features, data-driven investment story, strategic business insights. And then I basically put bullet points that back all those 3 skills. And you can put like up to 4. So I put like 3 to 4 in here. And then putting a bullet point that backs that up. On the bullet point, we're going to follow the same structure that we follow on the bullet points on your experience section. So I'm going to go through that in a little bit, but just trying to highlight 3 skills that are really emphasized in the job description that you want to make sure that the recruiter is looking at. Then we go into professional experience. Professional experience, again, very straightforward. Like just need to put the company name and the job that you're doing there. Like if you are, I always like to put the company name first. And this is also a mistake that I see people making, because if you like did get promoted in your company, for example, you do want to show promotion because that's really important for people to see that you have been recognized within the company. So you can add basically like other titles in here with promotions underneath, all under the same company. Just because like some people, sometimes they put like the company like name twice and it looks like you, I don't know, left the company and then you joined the company again. So it doesn't really look like a progression. So you can do it like that. But then when looking at the bullet points, we always want to make sure that it follows the structure action verb. So you can see in green, action verb, task or project. What was it that you did on that project or on that task? And then the third one, which is the one that people miss the most, is achievements and results. Recruiters, they are looking for impact. What was the impact that you had at your business? And it doesn't matter what job that you did or even like projects that you did, there's always something that you can quantify, whether it's the number of projects you worked on, delivery rate, improvement in user engagement, A/B testing, anything that you can quantify. And like if you're not sure what to put, you can use ChatGPT to help you. Just putting like your CV, the job description, and asking like, okay, like based on what I did, what are some things that I can quantify from my role? And it's important as well not to put everything into percentages. So you see like everything here is percentages, because this can look like very ChatGPT. So it's important for you to also add numbers when you can. So like, for example, as I was saying, number of projects or anything that is like a number instead of just putting percentages everywhere. And then same structure goes here and same structure goes here. So for every experience or project that you have listed, you need to try to put at least 3 bullet points with quantifiable results. And I never put more than 5 bullet points. 5 bullet points maximum for every single job that you have listed on your CV, because more than that, no one's going to read. You need to be compact about what is it that you're calling out from your previous experience. Then we go into education. Again, very straightforward. You don't need to put the year. You don't need to put the modules that you studied, unless it's like very technical and you don't have any experience. Then it's fine like to put the modules, but always like trying to keep it as simple as possible, bachelor's and master's. Then you have your project, which you can highlight. And again, if you are a recent grad, you just put your projects at the top. But it follows literally the same structure in bullet points: action, verb, task or project, and results. And you can just list them the same way that you list your experiences. And then you can put like your courses at the bottom, and then additional skills. So additional skills is anything that we didn't add here at the top that wasn't like really, really relevant for that role, but it's still like a good skill for you to have if you're like software engineer or data analyst. Let's say like, you know, other coding languages that are not the ones that they are wanting, but it's good to emphasize. So you can just put that at the end instead of putting it all the way at the top. And another thing that I just wanted to emphasize on the CV as well is that I see a lot of people like trying to make the CV pretty, trying to put 2 columns on the CV, trying to overcomplicate things. I can tell you that recruiters and hiring managers, like they want to look at something that is easy to read, that is clean. So having a very simple format is not something going against you, is something that, again, because it's in a very clear format for them. It makes it easier for them to digest the information and read. And then we need to take into account the ATS system as well. Anything like having 2 columns, having graphs, having tables on your CV, all of that can interfere when your CV gets uploaded to the system, and then it translates that information into the different fields that you're capturing. So we always want to try to stay clear of like 2 columns of tables, of graphs, or anything that doesn't get translated well in the ATS. This is definitely like going to change in the next couple of years, or like ATSs are going to become smarter about how they're scanning. But for now, I would just keep it as simple as possible, because you don't want to risk that information being translated badly, and basically like missing a couple of skills just because you put it in a table or you put it as a graph. So just another thing to highlight as well. But yeah, I think I'm on time. So yeah, this was a little bit just going over CV and LinkedIn, and then just wanted to put here as well. Basically on this link, you can access all of the CV templates that I was showing today, and a couple of other resources as well for you guys. And yeah, that was about it.
Thanks, that was really brilliant, because I think that was very informative. A lot of things I have seen, like when I'm looking at the resume, like absolutely you're bang on when you said that, you know, you have like 5 seconds, 6 seconds. You look at a resume and you feel like that information should just hit you at that point. Otherwise, we just move on to the next one. Absolutely. There are a few questions. I think most of them have been answered, but I'm just going to look at Rajni.
Hi, thank you. That was really useful, like Madhura said. So I have one question, because more and more companies are switching to using AI for screening. So it's gone past ATS. It now uses AI, which is a far more complicated system. So how do you switch from what you said? I know we mentioned ATS. How do we start looking at AIs for it to go through the pipeline? And I think most of the things you covered, like the relevant keywords, etc., will get you past it. And then you spoke about social media and having those bits, so it can go and pick up bits. So you can be, there's metrics and scoring at the end of it with this AI system. So what is your advice, and what can you share that'll be useful for our community that's here today?
Yeah, so that's a good question. The way that AI is being embedded in the system is mostly through the ATS, because like all of these companies that are behind ATS, like Greenhouse, Ashby, like those are very popular ones in the UK. They're all looking to integrate AI so that when they integrate it to the company, they already can do that filtering on the company's behalf. So then the company can just set a set of criteria on like, okay, like I want to eliminate anyone that is not in London, or I want to eliminate anyone that doesn't have experience in Python, let's say. So the way that you need to be approaching it is more or less what I was saying on like personalizing your CV. That's why like having the right keywords in your CV matter now more than ever, because if you're not including like all of the keywords that are relevant for that position, it's very easy for your CV to be eliminated. Or if you're applying for jobs like in another city, you're probably going to see that the level of eliminations are going to be higher than if you're applying in the city that like your CV is in. So those are just a couple of things to consider, but like just making sure that you are personalizing your CV for every single job, because AI is going to be able to basically match you with the job description. So like looking at your CV, and you can even do that with ChatGPT now. You can go on ChatGPT and paste your CV, paste a job description, and ask ChatGPT like, okay, can you give me a scoring in percentage of how well does my CV match to this job and why? And then you're going to see like, where is it that you're lacking, how much ChatGPT is rating your CV in comparison to that job description. And it's more or less the same system that the companies are going to be using. So like you can basically do that as an exercise, and like anything that is matching less than 75, 80%, I wouldn't apply, because either like your CV is not tailored well enough for that job, or you don't have the necessary skills needed to do that job. Hope that answers the question.
There's also, I mean, I know you mentioned about 75 to 80%, but I often find that the CVs that come in, men, even if they are not, if their skills match like about, I don't know, 40, 50, 60%, they will still apply and women hesitate. Now, with this percent that you've shared, how does this change the dynamics for women? I know that, you know, like with AI, you know, they try and remove the biases by removing the gender, etc., etc. But still, I wonder, yeah, there's that stats about like women, they usually wouldn't apply. How do we encourage women to apply for more jobs, even if it, yeah, because sometimes I think it's less about it. I often find women are really good at what they do and yet wouldn't apply for those jobs. So I'm circling back on those aspects and yeah, seeing what you have to say about that.
Yeah, so you're saying that usually we apply for jobs that are like 60, 50% of match, so like more jobs.
So yeah, so if you notice, men usually, this is a stat and actually this is research. I think the numbers might not be like spot on, but men, if it hits 50 and 60%, they will still apply for the job, and women actually aim for like 80, 90%
Got it.
to actually apply for that job. Now, with this new system and what you said for an 80% match, it's a question to say, how do we ensure more women actually apply anyway, in that sense? I know that, like you said, we can plan it better. It's not that we do not have the experience, it's how you present that information, right? Like, what is the transferable skills you can take from one CV to the other, you know, for this role and apply, so you can actually get that match. So I think I was trying to emphasize that aspect of it.
Got it. Yeah, I understand it now. So that's a very good point. I would say that like now, I mean, independent of gender, like we are in an employer's market, which means that companies have the upper hand. Like they can, you probably like seen that yourself, or seen like people going through that, where like you go through the third, fourth stage of the interview process. Let me just stop sharing. You go to the third, fourth space of the interview process, and then like companies go with another candidate, even though you're a really good fit for the job. So like that's like the first barrier, is that because we're in an employer's market, it's really hard to compete, because there are a lot of people in the market, a lot of people like also coming from other companies as well. And what we realize is that the people that have the best experiences are not necessarily the people that get the jobs. Most of the times is actually the people that know how to tell their stories. So like going back to what you're saying, like it's a lot about storytelling in this market and really positioning yourself as the perfect fit for that role. But like, even if like someone in this market, let's say they're applying for jobs where they're like 50, 60% compatible with that job, like that person doesn't stand a chance, because realistically, like compared to the amount of candidates in the market right now, like the probability that they're not going to get automated rejected and go through the process is very, very low. So when I say like 80, 85%, like I think this is the number that everyone should aim for. And I do think that, again, like if you have all of the technical skills required, you meet that 80%, like go ahead and apply for the job. But now we need to be much more intentional, and it's about quality, not about quantity necessarily, which is something that like we repeat over and over, is like the ideal is that for 15 jobs that you apply for, you get at least a 30% conversion rate. So like for 10 jobs you apply for, you get 3-4 interviews. I think a lot of the mindset that people have in this market is that just applying for a lot of jobs, and like the more jobs you apply for, like the higher chances you have of getting an interview. But it's completely the opposite. It's like the more jobs you apply for, the less chances you have of getting an interview, because 100% sure you're not doing everything that you need to do to get an interview in this market. Because like CV is important, but then you need to network. Networking is like the key pillar in this market of getting interviews, because it's how you differentiate yourself. Like me as an example, for 2 weeks ago, I decided to apply for a couple of jobs. So I took a challenge of like trying to get 10 interviews in 2 weeks. And basically I applied for like 15 jobs. And literally just through cold application, like submitting my CV, I got one interview. I didn't get any automated rejections, but I got one interview of like a recruiter that got back to me. When I did networking, I reached out to the recruiter, I reached out to hiring managers, to peers. I literally got 6 interviews out of those 15. So it's like, it's the difference between you being passive and like just putting your CV forward and then hoping someone is going to see it and like they're going to put you through, or like, are you being active and actually like doing everything you can to get that one interview? because that's going to matter much more than people that like spraying and praying. So I would say like in that sense, there is a leverage because we're much more intentional than the people like, let's say like the stat that you pulled are applying when they fit like 50%, 60% of the role, because realistically, like they're not going to get the interview or they're not going to progress further to the offer stage.
Thank you. One last question. So when you go and reach out to the on LinkedIn, right, for like, say, I'm interested in this job, what is the strategy that you would recommend to the to the listeners here? How can they reach out, and what's the best way to reach out, and what to write? Yeah, any tips and tricks there?
Yes, I can show you real examples of my outreach a couple of weeks ago. Let me just pull this up really quick. But yeah, more or less, like when reaching out on LinkedIn, there are mainly 3 profiles that you want to be reaching out to. Realistically, there is the hiring manager, which is the person that you would be reporting into. There is a recruiter, which is like the person that's actively recruiting for the job. They're involved in the hiring process. And then there are other people in the company, like peers. So depending on the size of the company you're going for, you might have to network with more people or less people. If it's a startup, I always say 5 people. If it's a big company, like 10 to 15. But you always want to try to find who the recruiter is, who the hiring manager is, so you can go ahead and like, again, try to differentiate yourself from everyone else. One important thing to note is that recruiters and hiring managers, they receive a lot of messages every day. It's the same thing as like emails, like they receive a bunch of emails as well. So what's going to make them reply to you as opposed to replying to the other people that are sending them messages? So there is a level of like you needing to stand out in the middle of a lot of other people that are doing the same thing. And there are a couple of ways that you can do that. I'm going to show you what is the way that I used. So here you can see those are all, and these are just a few. These are like when I was applying, like these are all recruiters and hiring managers that I was reaching out to, and you can see like all of them like reply to me. And I got most of them, I got interviews out of it. The strategy that I use when connecting with recruiters and hiring managers, because I want to stand out and because my background is in marketing and I know this works in marketing and sales, is that I try to send something that makes them impossible to ignore. So one of the tactics that I'm using here is sending a video resume. So basically what I do is that I create a link where I put my CV here. So you have my CV, you have a link to my LinkedIn profile, and then I record a video just for that company. So basically on that video, I'm just like, hey, my name is Joanna. I saw that you guys are hiring for a head of marketing or whatever that role is. Just wanted to introduce myself. And this is a good place as well for that storytelling, like for you to position yourself exactly as the right fit for that role. So the recruiter, when they look at it, they can see that. And this also goes into the other element of right now, the problem in this market is that it's too easy to apply for jobs. So people don't have any intention when they're applying for jobs. A lot of them is AI doing it for them. So when recruiters and hiring managers, they see that you put the effort to do things like outside of just creating a CV or outside of just creating a cover letter, they do pay attention. And even if you're not a good fit, like most of the times they take the time to answer you. So you can see here, like I basically send a very quick message, a connection request, and I send a link to my res link. Straight away, the recruiter replied to me saying that they're going to pass my information over. Same thing with this guy, same thing with this other recruiter as well. And then this was actually the hiring manager. So this was the VP of revenue. And he said, thank you for connecting and doing this. The process, unfortunately, like is not live anymore, but I appreciate your time. This is something that if I had applied for this job, they would never have gotten back to me on saying anything like this. So like the hiring manager literally got back to me and told like, yeah, the role not actively hiring anymore for this role. So this is the strategy that I use. Again, you can do other things as well, like try to be creative and do other things to spark the recruiters and the hiring managers' attention and just differentiate yourself from everyone else. And then there's also networking with peers. So these are people like in similar positions than you. So let's say like other software engineers or data analysts in the company. that you can connect with and try to build a conversation with them. There's a lot of like strategy that goes into like how to build a connection with peers, because you can't approach it transactionally. You need to approach it as you are trying to build a relationship with them, not going in and asking for a referral, because they're never going to refer you. So you really need to treat that conversation as you're providing them value first, instead of asking for favors. Because if you send someone a message saying like, hey, would you refer me? That person will probably never reply to you. So yeah, these are more or less like some of the tactics that we see working the best when it comes to networking.
Thanks, Joanna. Just before we go to the breakout rooms, I just want to just quickly check if any of our other reviewers, Nicola, if you want to add one small quick note before we just go to the breakout rooms. Or,
yeah, I think I, especially on the note of doing things that are going to make you stand out, I could not agree more. Emma and I are co-founders of a business called Hera, and we together have got over 30 years of recruitment experience between us, and doing things that will make you stand out is so important. It's really important to have a really well structured CV, but in this market it's probably not enough. So I think you just need to have that consistent effort across your CV, your LinkedIn profile, and your personal branding, which is probably another session in itself, and also doing things like Joanna said that are really innovative, that will make you stand out, regardless of whether it's a coding role, a marketing role. I think it doesn't matter the role, and it doesn't matter the industry. It's just do things that will make you stand out.
Absolutely. Thank you so much. Thanks. Dee, if you want to add something, or I think we have her on the call, right? Okay. Anyways, so thank you so much, both of you. Sam, do you want to set up the breakout rooms now? Yeah, thank you.
Awesome. I'm just gonna end the recording, and what we can do is essentially stay in this